The film begins after an important meeting, attended by all the world leaders. The Secretary General of the United Nations issued an important announcement. This announcement was saying that the planet Earth is exposed to environmental collapse due to climate change, which led to a shortage of food, drink and resources all over the world. The final solution that the leaders agreed on is to lock the borders between countries, and each country has 1 year only to reduce its population by 20%. After the announcement, we see a group of people standing in a long line to take their share of the dead. All of them were holding umbrellas to protect themselves from ultraviolet rays, and at the same time, we see men of an organization affiliated with the government moving the body of a person from his house to Al Arabiya. At this moment, a person named Bob appeared and entered the house of the person who died and handed his daughter an envelope containing money. Here we know that the government imposed a program called Sacrifice for the Sake of the Homeland, which makes all families sacrifice one of them to reduce the population. The people are grateful that the government is addressing the crisis by giving financial support to each family. Sacrificing one of her own at the same time, we see Yusuf and Malak who were in their car and watching everything that happens. It is clear that they are not satisfied with the government's actions towards the people. Yusuf was both Arab, and he and Malik were very upset by the advertisements for street finance, and those that encourage people to volunteer in the Sacrifice for the Nation program. What is your intolerance? He threw his coffee at these advertisements. After that, Yusuf and Malik arrived at the palace of a person named Charles, who turned out to be the owner of the moving company. Yusuf and Malik. They entered the palace, turned off the piano, and went to the room on the television that was working, and we saw a person named Jared on the TV program Jared. He was talking about the crisis, and he announced his support for the program, Sacrifice for the Sake of the Homeland, and he said that this is a national duty on every family in society. Jared encouraged families to submit members of their families to die, especially since their country is very behind other countries in reducing the population. Malik was very intolerant of Gordon's words and insulted him so loudly that Charles, who was Abu Gard, heard him. But your money, apologized quickly. Here we learned that Charles was a famous broadcaster, but he retired. Charles Saab went to Marat Don in the kitchen, famous, and she was preparing food because they were going to have their children for lunch without being sad. Very. It's because Charles decided that he and Don would submit themselves to the Sacrifice for the Fatherland program. Charles guided her, explaining they were doing this to let their children live in the moment. He saw in the news that his daughter Rachel faced heavy criticism. She may be tried because she works as an executive director of a pharmaceutical company, and this company produced the drug that causes many side effects. At the same time, he was guarded and arrived at the palace, and before he entered, his wife called him and they fought. The reason is that Jared said in the program that he is ready to present his 10-year-old son to the Sacrifice for the Homeland program. Jared is trying to explain to her that the broadcaster was the one who manipulated the words, but his wife said that her son is collapsed and afraid of him. Jared apologized and asked for the phone to speak with his son and learn the truth. But his wife told him that his son was afraid of him and did not want to talk to him. She asked him not to return home until the boy calmed down and forgot. At this time Noah, who is Jared's brother, was standing in front of the palace under the tree. He was afraid to meet his father. He called Grace with him and told her that he was nervous. He rang the bell. I advised him that he would not be able to face his family. It was better for him not to bring lunch and advise them. He would meet them at another time, when he was more prepared and able to deal with them. Noah was convinced by her words and rode with his sister in her car. He asked her if she knew why their father wanted them. She told him that she had no idea about Noah and Ashley. They were very close to each other, so Noah told her that he loved his girlfriend Grace, and that Ashley would marry her. What did you find for him? Especially when I learned that Grace helped Noah kick his addiction after they arrived at the palace. Charles greeted them and embraced them. After they sat down for the meal, I gave them food and Noah. He asked her about her restaurant, but he was very sad. Why did she tell him the restaurant burned down? Charles is a violin who stood up and regretted his job and apologized to his children. He told them he regretted the moments he spent away from them. Suddenly, Charles announces that he and Dawn will volunteer for the Sacrifice for the Fatherland program. Rashid objected and asked that she go and sit in the office room. Charles told his children that he did not want 2 people to die among them, and that they were doing all this to protect them from the program of Sacrifice for the Homeland. Jared, who objected to his father's behavior, said that he had rushed his decision, told him that the government would never have asked him to provide a limit to his family's death. Because the government doesn't do that to people as strong and powerful as them, Gordon asked Charles to reconsider his decision. But Charles refused. They said he did not want to risk them in the future. Ash asked Dawn about the reason that made her agree to Charles's proposal. Dawn told her that she and Charles are public figures, and that they will be a role model to encourage people to do what they do. Ashley was not convinced by her words and told her father that he did this for his reputation and to raise his family's name more and more. She told him that he feels raw hope for his children and no one among them is as successful and famous as he is. Even Jared, who helped him. The media field has remained a phaser and is unable to make people love it. We also went to get angry with his father and told him that it was still a while ago. He apologized for not spending too much time with them. Noah was out of control because he could not imagine that his father and mother would die without crying for Noah and asking him to guide him. Noah heard her words and was silent. And don't talk to countries. She told them that they would continue their words while they were eating sweets, and she went to the kitchen to prepare them for them. Noah. He tried to make his father change his mind, telling him that the government was falsifying the numbers he was exposed to. They knew that the government had reached the number it wanted for a long time, but officials gave it an opportunity to get rid of certain groups of people. The government paid $250,000 per person. Sacrificing himself, Jared took exception to Noah's words and said it was impossible for the government to do so. Charles asked him to stop lying and told him that he had 30 years left, holding meetings with government officials, and there was not one of them who was telling the truth to the people. They said that the government statements caused strife between the people and immigrants when they announced that the cause of climate change were the countries of Asia and Africa. Citizens burned the homes and shops of immigrants, including a restaurant without, because they were of Asian origins. Charles said the government is trying to get rid of immigrants. Under the pretext of the law of sacrifice for the sake of the Shali homeland, she interrupted their words and changed the subject, telling them that Noah loved a girl named Grace and wanted to marry her. Noah did not want Al-Nashri to talk about this topic because he was afraid of his father's reaction. We went and told them that Grace stopped his addiction 10 years ago and that she also helped him stop his addiction. He told them that Grace is a great theater director and he works in the theater. This is the pianist, Charles Park, for his son, and I wish him happiness in his life. After that, he told them that he was going to help Dawn in the kitchen, but he came back holding the letter without being shocked. Because Dawn said that she would not be able to sacrifice herself, and that she would run away to a distant place, and no one would see her again. They were all shocked by what was happening, and Charles felt guilty because he forced her to die, and she agreed, but to satisfy him, the door slammed. Bob was coming to carry out the death procedure for Charles, and Dawn was told that Dawn didn't exist. He asked if he could postpone the operation until they met her. Bob? Charles asked them to talk to themselves. They took him and went to the office room there. Bob handed the papers to Charles and asked him to go ahead with them. When Charles first read the papers, he was very fanatical, but he continued the procedures without knowing what was written in the papers. Charles slept in his bed and his children around him. Noah's a piano player. Sad music. Charles apologized to his children and asked them to take care of themselves. Bob injected Charles with an anesthetic injection and then injected him with another injection containing poison. While they were transporting Charles's body, Gardo and his sisters told me that he needed another body because he had been summoned to take 2 bodies from their family. He was fanatical about him. He wanted to beat him, but the soldiers entered the house and raised their weapons towards him. Bob told Noah and his sisters that they had 2 hours to decide which of them would die. Jared took advantage of his connections and called the officials at length, but Bob was surprised and said that they jammed all phone and internet signals. He told them that he would wait in his car until they decided which of them would die. Gardo and his brothers asked Bob that he would go around Dawn and die, and so he would continue to take the 2 bodies while he was sick. They preferred this situation for 2 hours. After that, we went and asked about the papers that his father had gone over. Bob, they said that his father wanted death procedures, but he changed his mind when he learned that all his property would be confiscated, and he would be imprisoned for the rest of his life. His name will be placed on the list of cowardly citizens who have abandoned their duty towards the homeland. Bob gave them documents that had all the information about each of them regarding bad information to help them make a decision and sacrifice themselves. He told Garden that he was a selfish person, and the woman who cheated on his wife with her cheated on him with more than one. After that, Bob addressed his words to Rachel and told her that I heard her was very lonely and she might be locked up, but that I was her daughter and she would not be proud of her. Final. Rashid became angry and beat him, and he decided that he would leave them alone until they made their decision. He told them that if the 2 hours were over, the decision would not be scratched. He would come and choose one of them himself, Noah and his sisters. They remained silent. Jared. He suggested that Noah was the one who died, because he was their adopted brother, and if he took a big chance, what? To live a good life, but he missed this opportunity when he became addicted. He told them he hit 16 with his car and killed her while under the influence of drugs. Ashley objected to Jared's words and fought with him. Noah inspired that he was coming today to apologize to them, and they knew that he was an addict hero. He remained a good person. Rachel tells them that she's not ready to die, and Sakina comes out and attacks Noah to kill him. He preferred that he suffered a wound in his chest, and a knife fell from Rashid in front of Ashley. Rashid. She loved that she convinced Ashley that Noah must die, and that this would provide each of them with a share of their father's inheritance. Noah took his share of the inheritance. In fact, when their father paid $3,000 as compensation to the family of the woman who died to protect Noah and not enter prison, Ashley changed her mind and threw the knife to Rachel Guard. He would bring an iron skewer with which to attack Noah, and Rashi brought a spray with which to attack Noah. She too. Noah moved quickly, struck them all, and ran into a room in the house. Jared. He went after him, but Noah hit him at the moment. Ashley. She attacked Noah, but Noah resisted her and was able to control her. When Rachel came to stab him, he struck her and knocked her to the ground. Rashid threw the knife at him and put it in his back. Around that time, Bob got word that they had caught Don. Here, Bob is supposed to cancel the procedures for the death of his brother's Gardo, but he refused and issued orders. He did not go to the main headquarters, and we returned to Noah, who was able to get the knife out of his back. It turned out that he was very tired, even because of the injury, but he endured the pain. He took out his phone and wrote a message to his owner, Grace, and threw the phone from the window far from the house to catch a net, and the message reached Grace. After that, he broke a type of wooden stakes and took a pointed stick from it to defend himself. He will turn to the rest of his sisters until he finds them hiding behind the door. Ashley is afraid of him, apologizes to him for what Noah did, and asks about Jared and Rachel. She told him they were in the living room with knives. He told her that he must talk to them so that they can stop what is happening immediately. The sheep who stood in front of a picture of them, Noah's children, near the picture. Ashley told me about the picture and he was happy. He hoped that those who were deceiving him to give Gardo Rachel a chance would kill him. She attacked Noah from behind and hit him with a screwdriver in his hand. At the same moment Jared attacked Noah to kill him, but Jared and Rachel consigned them to the ground. After that, we were able to go. He took the screwdriver out of his hand, entered the room and locked himself in. The first time Jared entered, he hit him with a wood. When Rashid entered, he hit her in the neck with a fork, and he was not satisfied with killing her. Noah came out of the room and hit another guard, and he did not want him to die again. He said the thing that came from behind and hit him in the brain, and he fell to the ground. After that they tied him up and gathered around him, and each of them held a knife to kill him. Noah agreed. Ashley and Jared challenged each other, questioning who'd sacrifice themselves, accusing each other of selfishness. Picturing Bob and his legs on her phone, she asked about Noah, saw the government, and asked her to stay away from Grace's house. She refused and wanted to check on Noah in any way. Jared and his sisters knew that Noah was okay, and asked her to ask for help to save them from Bob. One of Bob's soldiers hit. You hit Grace with fire and killed her. Rachel told Bob that he was like this with Justin. Bob objected to her words, and knew that he had to take the second body from their family. Rashid entered the house with her brothers, but was shocked when they discovered that the knives had disappeared. Noah is not here at this time. Noah went out, the light of the whole house, so he ran quickly to the kitchen, and each of them took something to defend himself. After that, they began to look for Noah inside, but Ashley found him in front of her holding a knife in his hand, attacking her and hitting her. But he did not kill her. After that, he hit Jared and knocked him to the ground, and he waved at Rachel, stabbing her in the face. He returned to Ashley, but she began to talk to Noah, and told him that she would sacrifice herself. Noah prepared to attack with the syringe, but they discontinued the idea of killing Bob. Noah told them that none of them would die. He has a plan that will save them all. Paralyze the injured. She fainted from the intensity of the pain, and the promise of time and 2 hours were over. Bob went in on Noah and his sisters to find out exactly what they were doing. Ashley's body was on the ground. Booba thanked them for cooperating with him and carrying out his words. He asked one of his men to answer something to remove Ashley's body, but Ashley stabbed Bob's assistant in the leg. Noah grabbed a knife and put it to Bob's neck. At this time, Bob's men entered, and they lifted up their arms against Noah and his sisters. He told them to put down their guns, and who would kill his mother. They actually carried out his words, and Jardo went and took all the weapons from them. Unfortunately, at this time, she was the one who actually died from the impact of her injury. Bob told them that the problem was solved. Jared hit him and lost consciousness. After that, Bob recovered and found himself tied to the bed. All his men were tied up. They were also tired when he saw the body of the woman who killed Grace. At that time, Noah killed her in order to take revenge on his friend. He took care of her even more. When he found Noah holding the poison syringe and was about to attack with it, he told them that she was in the headquarters. We would go back from the idea of killing Bob. After a while, we saw Noah in the theater, sitting on the piano. Rashid and her daughter Maya, and Jared and his son sitting next to them. They were enjoying Noah playing the piano. They were without a bass next to them, and they were enjoying Noah playing the piano. At that time, the weekly bulletin for volunteers appeared. In it, we knew Ashley and Grace. They sacrificed themselves. Bob appeared and said that Ashley and Grace were. This marked the movie's end.